Yo, this is Fling with DFS Army, and this is your Week 1 Millie Maker review. And spoiler alert, DFS Army was all over the leaderboard, so let's get into it. All right, so gonna start out here with a little shout out. Rodham Wash, who we are going to see here when we go to the Millie Maker, longtime DFS Army subscriber. He said, "Geek, thank you so much for the videos and all the advice over the years. Finally hit it. Literally only played the Millie Maker. Mass entered it $750 in, over $1 million out. Won first place. Not only won first place, but put 2 into the top 5. So really just it was pretty amazing watching the Discord go crazy yesterday, because early on it was Screaming Golfer who was actually in first place, and Screaming Golfer himself, DFS Army VIP as well. You could see here just really did well, had 2 lineups here in the top 12, just incredible. Another here at 14, another here at 17. So this was a huge day for DFS Army. First, taking on taking the top spot, winning the $1 million for the Millie Maker, and then just having so many helmets in the top of the leaderboards. And it wasn't just for the Millie Maker; it was across a lot of different contests. So shout out to all the members who won big money this past week. In fact, I got a little video to show you guys. So really good stuff. And I mean, what is great about that is it's not even just the Millie Maker. Obviously, you know, we had Screaming Golfer here win over 80K, you know, on the day, which is what you saw in one of the screenshots. But it's also just really good ROI, turning, you know, $400 into $800, you know, turning $2,000 into $7,000. So really crushed it. And we're going to kind of dissect Rodham Wash's lineup here. Now, unfortunately, I wanted to do the 150 MME. I wanted to see what his actual exposures were, kind of dissect it from Fantasy Labs, but they don't have the data up for the $5 Millie Maker. So we're just going to have to skip that. But we're going to kind of look at both of his lineups here. That one that obviously won it, and then the other one in the top 5. So what we had here was a Justin Fields naked lineup. And this is something that we do talk about a lot at DFS Army is, yes, stacking is important. We are going to see there's correlation in this lineup, but stacking is not the end all be all when it comes to these running quarterbacks. Like, you can get in the winning Millie Maker build. You can have a large field GPP win without having a quarterback stacked with his pass catcher. Now, Garrett Wilson had a good day, so probably could have fit Garrett Wilson in the lineup, but we've seen it time and time again. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, Jaden Daniels, they don't always necessarily need to bring someone with them because they do enough on the ground that they can get there on their own. And that's what we saw here with Justin Fields. He had 2 rushing TDs and I believe 48 rush yards. So 29 points. He was not stacked with Garrett Wilson. There was no bring back on the other side. So this was a naked Fields lineup. We had Bijan, who was one of the plays that was given out on Tournament Tactics. If you listened to that on Friday, you heard it. And if you didn't listen to it, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you never miss these type of calls that happen every single week when they go live on Tournament Tactics on Friday. In fact, hit that notification bell. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. And if you like these breakdowns, also hit that like button while you're here. But so we had a Bijan and Ibuka bring back. So little ping pong stack here, Bijan and Ibuka in that Tampa and Atlanta game. And that's kind of one of the things, like, just make sure there's correlation in the lineup. Obviously didn't have to have Fields stacked, but was able to still get some type of correlation in the lineup. And that's one of the biggest things. Correlation is, you're trying to get less things right. You're trying to correlate for that ceiling outcome, but there's a lot of different ways you can correlate. It doesn't always have to be the quarterback. Now, also had Miami here, and would just, I think, with Ashawn, just a one-off, essentially. Then we had Puka Nacua, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Johnson, JSN. So there was a second stack in here, Ricky Pearsall and JSN. I loved the Pearsall play. We've been drafting him all year, all summer long in best ball. Same with Ibuka. So love these plays here. But I also love this ping pong stack because I really like JSN. He's a guy that I was hammering all year in best ball drafts all summer because he's the only ticket in town. He's going to get a ton of targets, and that's what he got. 124 receiving yard, 9 receptions. I believe he had like 15 targets. So love this. And then love the Denver D going against a rookie quarterback, arguably the best defense in the league. Definitely top 3, going against a rookie quarterback as 8-point favorites, rookie quarterback going on the road, starting his first game. So this was a really good play. And then what I also loved about this lineup, having the Juwan Johnson pay down tight end. Everyone's playing Brenton Strange. Everyone's playing, David Njoku, these other guys. What about, the $3,300 tight end that the field isn't on? And, it's a 1-to-1 pivot from Brenton Strange. Like, I love that. Overall, this was a contrarian lineup. Fields 1% owned. Bijan 10%. Achon, that was just Achon and Ibuka and Pearsall, the only guys really over 10%. So, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 spots that were sub 10%. And then Bijan was right there. So just a really good lineup, good correlation, solid plays, exactly what you are looking for. Here, when you're building a Millie Maker lineup, when you're building a large field GPP lineup, we have guys that project well, like Bijan, like Achon, like Puka Nacua, like Pearsall and Ibuka, especially from a fantasy points per dollar perspective. And then just some overlooked guys, Juwan Johnson, Spencer Rattler, he's going to throw to that big target. He's a young quarterback, not a lot of starts, and just kind of overlooked by the field. And then same thing with JSN. He really shouldn't have been overlooked. He was a guy that I was jamming in because, the field was overlooking him, and he was clearly going to get a lot of opportunities. So really good lineup. And by the way, just want to shout out real quick, Geek and, some of the other guys, but specifically Geek here with his cheat sheet that we're going to look at, nailed a lot of the calls. So we're going to see here, had Justin Fields in the mix, low owned Justin Fields, and then nailed the Bijan call, 5-star play, Devin Achon, core play here. Also, Puka Nacua, 4.5 stars. Ricky Pearsall and Ibuka. Ibuka, core play. Ricky Pearsall, where is he? Yeah, 4 stars. So this is a guy that, we've been on all offseason. And, same with Ibuka. These are some of the rookies that, you really needed first week of the NFL season, and they really came through, and Geek nailed it in the cheat sheets here. And by the way, guys, we actually are extending. We've been doing this promotion for the past week to kick off the NFL season because of the Millie win here from Rotom Wash. We are extending this 20% off. This is any subscription. So this is actually better than the last one we had. It's special sale because of the Millie win, but 20% off. This is for a lifetime. This isn't just you get 20% off for 1 month and then, you go back to regular pricing. This is 20% off as long as you're a member. So you never cancel. You keep this 20% off. It's a really good deal. I'll go ahead and put the link in the video description, but it's going to be promo code Millie. You get access to all the things that make DFS Army subscribers successful. You can see the different cheat sheets here. The domination station, that is the optimizer where you can play with 150 lineups. We have the research station. You can spit out, I use the domination station for helping me cash, for building my cash lineup. We're going to get into that here in a second after we finish with the Millie Maker top 10, but you get all the tools. You get the Discord community, the coaching, the calls, everything you get all that 20% off with code Millie. So Rotom Wash, that was his first lineup, and he had a second Fields lineup. So, I mean, that's just crazy. So he really crushed the competition here. 9 points difference between first and second place. And then his fifth place lineup, looks like the biggest thing was just the Gibbs call. Very similar lineup. And I really want to look at his exposures because clearly it was on Fields here. And the biggest difference between those two lineups, one was a JSN lineup. We couldn't have afforded Puka. Yeah, so it looks like it was a difference between JSN and Gibbs versus Puka and JSN. So really it was just a 1-versus-1 of Puka versus Gibbs that was the difference between winning the Millie and fifth place. And, this is kind of something that I think is key is when you're building lineups, like you kind of want to, you see the slate playing out a certain way and you want to pull up one lineup that you liked and you change a player, or maybe you change two players. So you're kind of sticking around the same core group of players, but just changing one thing from here to the next. So this is the difference between winning the Millie and winning fifth place, which is great, 25K. But I mean, look at the difference between 25K and in fifth place and a Millie there in first place. And it was that 9-point difference that was able to take it down. So good on him. And then real quick, just want to look at Screaming Golfer. Like I said, Screaming Golfer really, really had an incredible day. I believe Screaming Golfer made about 87,000 on the day, as we just saw in the video. So this was another, when we go back to Geek's cheat sheet, Danny Dimes, just want to call this out from the cheat sheet. I think we might see a vintage performance from Jones this week. Dolphins defense isn't known for pressuring opposing QBs. Jones can be stacked up with any of Downs, Warren, Mitchell, and Pittman if he plays. So let's go back to this lineup. Danny Dimes, Tyler Warren. So straight from the cheat sheet, this is what Screaming Golfer used to get top 10 in the Millie. Had a Danny Dimes stack and the same core players. And gosh, you know what? Olave, from what I remember as well, Olave got hurt in this game. He went to the medical tent like 3 different times. If Olave stays healthy in this game, who knows? Maybe it's Screaming Golfer that got the first overall, got the Millie. But very similar core players, just Danny Dimes, Tyler Warren, kind of different there from obviously the quarterbacks Fields and Juwan. And then just really the same group of players. So Bijan, Achon, Pearsall, Ibuka, Puka, Broncos, and Olave was the difference. So really just a 3-player difference there. And kind of same thing, Daniel Jones here. We see Warren. This one had London. So again, kind of what I was talking about. Stick to a core group of players and then you just kind of rotate a couple, just rotate some of these studs in and out because, obviously that's going to give you the best chance to really take down a tournament. Now, when you're wrong, it's going to suck. You're going to be wrong a lot. But I think it's important if you ever want to have a chance to take down one of these tournaments, you kind of play the slate a certain way. If you're not playing a ton of volume each and every week where you can cover so many different bases, just kind of just hone in on a smaller group of players and that sets yourself up. And you just kind of, you have a core group of players and then you just kind of rotate 1 to 2 players, a 1-versus-1, a 2-versus-2. And you can see like how close these guys were able to get. Screaming Golfer almost took it down. Rotom Watch did the same thing, was able to take it down. So love that. 14th place had Gibbs here. So kind of the same thing that we saw from Rotom Watch's 5th place lineup, was able to do that. JSN and Gibbs, 2-versus-2. The difference is obviously had Daniel Jones and Warren versus Justin Fields and Juwan. Let's see. This is rank 14. Okay, and then let's see what Rotom Watch did here. I mean, these guys just dominated the top 20 of the Millie maker. I mean, these guys were just battling out, going back and forth the whole way up from 20 up. And then he had some fields as well. So, and it's interesting, same thing with Fields. He clearly ran Fields naked here. So Fields, Bijan, Achon, Pearsall, Neighbors, Ibuka, Juwan, JSN. And yeah, not a good day for Neighbors. Not a good day for that offense. Let's take a look at one more of his builds. Christian McCaffrey, Tyler Warren. So yeah, very similar, just rotating out a few players. And I mean, gosh, this type of consistency. Now, one of the things about this playing this way, and it's like I just said, it's kind of a first or last mentality. He put a ton of lineups near the top of the leaderboards. The other side of that is you have to be willing to lose the majority of your money when you play this way, because when you're wrong, you're really wrong. And in this instance, this is certainly the week to do it, where it's a $5 entry fee. You can max it out, $750 to max it out, as opposed to, $3,000 to max it out. But that said, that is why we emphasize at DFS Army that you want to play cash games. You want to play small field tournaments, 100-man tournaments. You want to play your multipliers to kind of give you the bankroll. So you can play the majority of those type of lineups if you want to be profitable, help build your bankroll, help minimize the losses of the large field GPPs for when you have a very small player pool. You see the slate playing out one way, you attack it that way, and you're wrong, which happens a lot in DFS, and you're going to lose a lot of money, right? So being able to pump up that bankroll is what gives you the shots, so you can continue to play that way when you do play these large field GPPs, and eventually, hopefully, you're going to have a big hit like this, like Screaming Golfer did to win 80K plus, or Rotom Wash to actually win the Millie. But speaking of that, we are going to pivot a little bit. This is not just a Millie Maker review. This is a week in review. And it was a good week at DFS Army across the board. Large field GPPs, multipliers, cash games. So I do cash game content for DFS Army. And one of the things that I'm going to be doing each and every week, as I've done in years past, is reviewing how I did in cash games. So for me, it was a good cash game week one. Ended up profiting. I won about 20. I didn't do a ton of cash games. I did 25 head-to-heads. I won 20 out of 20 of them with a score of 124. So was able to profit. And it's interesting because, we can kind of go to my cheat sheet, and I'll show you a little bit as I walk through here. But Jaden Daniels, it was Jaden Daniels or Trevor Lawrence. Now, that's the other thing that we use at DFS Army is the chalkboard. The chalkboard is kind of going to tell us where we typically want to go with our cash lineup, where are the best plays, and you can see how they project and, where their ownership is. Now, if you got a guy that's getting a lot of ownership, but we don't really understand it, or oftentimes when he's in this spot, he fails, that might be bad chalk. That might be chalk that we are looking to avoid. Now, Trevor Lawrence was cash viable because he did actually project well, and he was the highest owned quarterback on the slate. And typically in cash games, it's okay to eat chalk. We are not trying to win the Millie Maker in cash games. We're not trying to outsmart the field like our boy here, Rotom Wash. We save that for tournaments. We don't want a low-owned lineup in our cash games because we only need to be half the field. So we're eating all the good chalk we want that we can. And then in tournaments, we're looking to differentiate ourselves and get off that chalk. But, kind of back to the chalkboard, there are spots where you might say, hey, I think this is going to be bad chalk. Maybe I want to fade this. Maybe I don't like this guy's floor for cash games, which in cash games, you need high median scoring. So for me, I didn't like the Trevor Lawrence chalk. I told DFS Army subscribers, I think we want to play Jaden Daniels over Trevor Lawrence because he has a much higher floor. But most of the time, you'll be able to see just on the chalkboard who a lot of the best plays are. Chase Brown, Devin Achon, Jonathan Taylor. We go over to wide receiver, Buka. Chase, more times than not, he's going to lead you the right way. But, Drake London, Brian Thomas Jr., Tet, like these are typically the plays that you want to follow. Now, thought we did pretty well with the cheat sheets. Like I said, I play my player pool and I put it into the cheat sheets, and that's what I play. Like I said, I cash. I know a lot of other people DM'd me. They did well in cash. Jaden Daniels was a play. I had him as a 5-star play. That's his 22 fantasy points per game. That's the type of floor I like to, target in my cash game, especially at quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, I loved him. He was a 5-star play until the calf injury. Still kept him on here. Still thought he was viable, but I did like the lineup better without the risk of him, splitting touches or re-injuring himself. So Achon, Chase Brown, James Conner, those are guys that, were at the top of my cash sheet. For running back, Chase, Nico, Neighbors, Thomas, London, Tet, and Buka. These guys were all cash viable to me. With Buka and Brian Thomas, really being the guys like 6K and under that I wanted to focus on in my cash lineup. And then what I always typically do is I'm going to pay down at tight end and defense. That's what I did with the Texans D, Jatavian Sanders, Brenton Strange. Certainly like them. I thought if you went with a Trevor Lawrence lineup that Njoku was the play. But my preference, as we're going to see when we get into my cash lineup, I prefer the pay down, the guy that's, popping fantasy points per dollar, getting good ownership. He's under 4K, because we're going to see here, this is why I don't really like the pay up. I chose 3,300 Brenton Strange, and he got me 9 points. 4,700 Njoku got 6 points. So this happens so often in cash games. So I always want to lean towards the cheap option. I ended up going with the Patriots, actually, just because I had the extra money. But typically I will go down to like a $2,500 player. But I really couldn't get any higher on any of these players that, that I felt was a good spot, like salary-wise, to get me up from, like a Brian Thomas or a Tet. I just kind of felt like the Patriots were the best play. And in all reality, I probably should have went up from Tet to JSN now that I think about it, and, went down a little bit on the Patriots. Didn't matter. Didn't burn me this week. Overall, this was, I think, a good process. That might have been the one leak in the game. But Jaden Daniels, good floor, better floor than Trevor Lawrence. And that was my deciding factor of, going with Jaden Daniels, and it paid off. So I had Achon, Chase Brown, Drake London, Tet, Igbuka. Like these are all, 6K, like solid wide receivers. Igbuka underpriced relative to the role we knew Godwin was going to be out. We knew, Cade Otton was going to play, but he was banged up. McMillan was on IR, and Igbuka had just smashed in training camp and in preseason. So yeah, overall, I think this was a good process for my cash strategy this week. And of course, we'll go back to the drawing board and look at it again for next week. So great week for DFS Army. Again, you like this kind of content, let me know. Hit that like button. Hit the comments. Let me know how week 1 went for you. And then last, again, if you want to join DFS Army, 20% off this week only. Any subscription, promo code Millie. I'll put that in the video description details. So find it there. That's going to wrap this one up. Stay tuned. We got a lot more content coming your way. I got my Underdog Battle Royale first look draft dropping tomorrow. Me and Geek and special guests are doing the Battle Pod. Of course, we got DraftKings. We got FanDuel first look coming up. So much. So excited. Let's do it again. We'll see you soon.